I taught in this class 31 years. We actually, the class is not that much older than the museum. You opened in '85. We started teaching here in 1988. In April of 1988, we had our first Fear of Flying class in this room. It's a big media event. 25 people signed up for the class. It was a Tuesday evening. Channel 4 showed up, cameras in tow. Everyone wanted to know what was going on. And we're having this Fear of Flying class. And that was an outgrowth of a class that the director from Mitchell Field, Pat Rowe, who was then the director of public relations, is at it. She received a flyer from the Omaha Airport Authority. And we went and viewed that class and decided that we could do something like this at Mitchell Field. So that's how the whole thing started. There was a co-teacher, the president of the then flight school on the field, and myself co-taught this class. We had a final flight to St. Louis. It was, for the most part, a very successful flight. Almost everybody flew. Channel 4 ran a video feed and put it in a newspaper. And we were off to the races. We settled in on a schedule that we would teach the class 2 times a year. We would limit the class attendance to 15 students, although it often swelled to 21, 22, sometimes 25, but we would teach the class no matter how many students signed up or not. We taught, the lowest class was 8 students. Everyone was worried that I didn't like that. It was a great relief because it turned out, in fact, teaching the class was a lot of work. So the only reason we limited it to 2 times a year because I did not have the physical energy to teach a class at that level of intensity more than 2 times a year, and I have a bad golf habit. So if I went the summer and had to teach a class and arrived at October, I wouldn't even want to be in the class, much less teach it. So in the early days of the class, we had a lot of celebration at the end of each class. We had a banner. Usually there was a cake. You can see the stuff off to the right there. A lot of times families showed up with balloons and congratulations for their family members who came to teach the class, went through 4 class periods, 3 of them, and then a final flight. There was a very celebratory attitude. As the years wore on, the celebrations weren't any less, they just weren't as open and obvious. But these are the early years that the flight personnel got involved in the act. We did a lot of hard work during the class session, and I'm going to talk about some of that hard work that we did tonight. But in the end, when the class was all said and done, it was a month of intense, productive work, and many students walked out the door very happy and relieved that they had solved a problem that they had carried around with them for years. And what do I mean for years? One woman walked out after 29 years living on the approach end of O'Hare Airport saying, "The monkey is finally off my back." So imagine being afraid to fly and living right off, having airplanes fly over your head for 29 years and not being able to do anything about it. The stories are endless. I hope to review a few of them. In your book, you'll see a lot of those accounts of people and what they did and how this altered and affected their lives. So the total 31 years of activities look something like this. We taught 2 classes of Fearful Flyers each year for 31 years. Never missed a class. And the interesting thing is we never missed the final flight. It was always on the day it was scheduled. We had a couple of close calls. Once we were the last airplane to land at Mitchell Field before the field was fogged in.
Wow.
And that turned out to be my call. That was a little extra that I had to do. Had to decide if we were going to take the flight to St. Louis and back because of the fog. We went, and we were the last airplane to land before the airport went to zero visibility. And there were a couple of snowstorms involved. But as the time went on, I became almost complacent that the weather was going to permit us to make a productive final class flight. And we did that. So 62 flights. So we had a total number of student count of between 900 and 1,000 fearful flyers. I don't have the exact count. We logged 62 graduation flights for a total of 124 hours, and that was more than 60,000 miles of graduation flights. Our graduation flight on average was from here to Minneapolis. We did use other similar venues, St. Louis, went to Kansas City, went to Cleveland, Detroit. I think we went to Cincinnati a couple times, went to Indianapolis twice. So that general 1 hour out and 1 hour back constituted our graduation flight. And then for a number of years prior to 9/11, we did sneak in some flights that was just to O'Hare Airport and back. But we did that because they were so inexpensive and very effective as well. After 9/11, the price of a round-trip ticket from Milwaukee to O'Hare went through the roof because they didn't want terrorists taking the flights. I don't know how the reasoning was that somehow a terrorist wouldn't pay premium for a ticket, but I never chose to confront that. So we also published a complete video seminar. So we were able to take the class and expand the content of the class and sell that online and distribute it in and outside the continental United States for more than 15 years. So an example, the post-traumatic stress disorder unit at the VA hospital in Denver bought 2 of the programs. And I received accounts of how those veterans, those PTSD veterans, were able to overcome their fear of flying working with the video program with in-house counselors. We were able to get a Vietnam person back to the country by sending the program through San Francisco to Vietnam. The soldier took the program and he was able to fly back to the United States. A United Airlines captain was having breakfast at the top of a hotel in the city of New York. He was just telling me this about a year ago, and he said that he overheard somebody having breakfast just next to him, that person saying how wonderful Dr. Tomaro was. And he leaned over and said, "I know that guy, how do you know him?" He said, "Oh, I took his video class online and now I'm flying everywhere and having a wonderful time doing it." So from General Mitchell Field, we were able to expand our reach significantly, and our geographic reach by the time we finished, well, we're not done yet, but the time I finished, our geographic reach extended from Chicago to Green Bay. The farthest west was in the center of Iowa, and that whole arc had people that were coming to Mitchell Field to take this class. We published a complete book, Flying in the Comfort Zone. If you look on Amazon.com, if you're interested in the book, it's for sale there. Hopefully it'll be up for sale for a long time. This little monograph that I have for you was written at the 25th anniversary, because we thought it would be good to have a public accounting of just what it was we were doing at General Mitchell Field all these years. And so I think that turned out to be a good choice. What else have we done here? We presented General Mitchell's program at international seminars in Vienna, Austria in 2000. This was hosted by Austrian Airlines, and they brought pure flying therapists in from all over the world for a conference, and then put a stamp on that by having that conference again in Montreal, Canada, hosted by the International Civil Aviation Authority. And we then also won the distinction by that time of having the longest, I'll go back a minute. We also presented nationally at the Anxiety Disorders Association of America in 2001 in Miami, Florida, and in 2004 in Atlanta, Georgia. We have, in 2007, up until now, we have won the distinction of having the longest running fear of flying program that's publicly supported in the entire world. My dad told me a story about a flight to Hawaii that he made on a 747. Captain took off from Chicago en route to Hawaii. He gets to cruising altitude, comes on and says, welcome aboard, ladies and gentlemen. This is a magnificent airplane. I still haven't figured out how it flies. But as long as we're up here, we might as well enjoy the flight. Now, that really sits well with a fearful flyer who's now 40,000 feet off the ground, flying with a pilot who doesn't know how the damn thing flies. When the needle gets to 70 miles an hour, or if you're in turbulence, it averages out to 70, you pull back on the yoke and the airplane takes off. And when you are at altitude and you pull back on your power and your airspeed gets to 90, that's your pattern altitude speed. You keep that until you get to the other side of the runway. You reduce power, keep the needle on 90, and when you get down to the runway, you pull back on the yoke and the speed bleeds off and the airplane touches down. So I'm doing this. I don't want to get caught in a crosswind with passengers, so I'm practicing. You've done it, right? I'm out there practicing, sweating, and I took off for the second time in this heavy crosswind. Looked out to the left, and I could see the wing working with the wind. It's like I could visually see it. I was concentrating so hard, I could visually see the wing connected to the wind. So we had to create situations with a fearful flyer where they could get this kind of insight, where they can say, I see how that works. We're not just sitting up here in thin air, we're sitting up here in a thick air environment. This lift is thick air. It's not just thin air running over a wing. This is a different substance than the substance you and I are standing in. We just can't see it. So we gotta learn it some other way other than visual. And we learn it by our functions. And then when we get a little farther, I said, people, homework today for all of you, go home, accelerate the car from 30 to 60 miles an hour with your hand out the window. Just your hand. And then look at your hand and say, how many hands are there in an airplane wing? 5,000? 7,500? How much force am I harnessing by going from 0 to 100 miles an hour? And then from 100 miles an hour to 400. And then I discover that pressure increases exponentially with speed. You see what I mean? Now I've really got something here. Oh, I like this one. If I scrunch this, you've got to get a bottle that's just the right kind of plastic in order for this to work. So when I'm doing this, what am I doing? I'm pushing air out of the bottle, right? And if I put the cap on, it stays that way, right? All right, now, wait for it. Air. Air just flowed back into the bottle and did that. A lot of pressure there, wasn't it? Some plastic doesn't work, but this one works perfectly until it wears out. So this is natural spring water Arctic. Got to get that one. That works. Cubic yard of air. 3 feet, 3 feet, 3 feet deep. How much would that weigh? Anybody guess? Take a guess. Give me a guess. Just fantasize. No? No fantasy? Anyone? What do you think? Give me a number. Got a number? 500 pounds. Yeah, 400. 2.1 pounds. So if I say air is a substance, look at that. When I say air is a substance, there's the substance of air. that we live in all the time and don't fully appreciate what's there. Everyone's seen one of these, right? Got them at home. If you turn on the water faucet, got water running down there, and this would be the equivalent of the cross section of the wing of an airplane. True?
Okay.
Right? The back, that would be the top of the wing.
Okay.
Right, so the air flows over the top, and we said that the air flows over the wing creates lift. Right? Okay, so we can use this, and then, so we've got a water faucet. Water can be like air. Faucet's running down, water's running this way, and I want to put the back of this spoon into the flow of water. What's going to happen when the water encounters the back of the spoon? Intuitively, what do you think will happen? Pushes it this way? You think?
Yeah.
Okay. Intuitively, you'd think that. But what happens is it gets sucked into the water stream. The flow of liquid over this creates a low pressure out here, and it pulls the spoon into the stream of water. It's intuitively the opposite of what you would think. Toxic perception is, in this instance, that airplane is in thin air. And it's not. But I can't just tell you it's thick air, because I got to prove it to you. You're a human being. You just don't buy a load of malarkey. You just won't do it. The brain won't be sold a load of malarkey. All right, this is the cross-section of the wing of an airplane. Fair enough?
Yes.
Like this?
Okay.
This part?
Yes.
Right? So if I am going to blow on this tail here, and I get around here, and I'm going to blow on that, which way is the tail going to go? Up. Intuitively obvious. I'm applying a force here, right? And it'll go up. Fair enough. But if I'm going to make this into a wing of an airplane and blow over the top of it, which way do you think the tail is going to go? You'd think it would go up, logically, from knowing about lift, but a lot of people say, well, if you blow over the top, it's going to drive the tail down. So that's the toxic perception, this way. The truth is, up it goes. How that translates into use: students completing the class flew 3 times more 2 years after the class completion than the students who did not complete the class.
Thank you for watching. If you're looking for something to do, or you are traveling through Milwaukee Mitchell International Airport, stop by the Mitchell Gallery of Flight for some aviation history. It's free. Donations are accepted. Right between concourse C and D. Outside of security, no body scans required. Conveniently located near parking.